So Viking season may be kind of but it's definitely not over at mybookie.ag because you know about the game, so why not? Something going on. Yeah, and MyBookie been in the business for years. Reputation is rock solid, plus the payouts. Yeah, some of these online sports books, not so good a reputation. You got to worry about beating the spread, and then you got to get worried about beating the book because you want to get paid. But MyBookie, rock solid reputation, fastest payouts, seriously, 2 business days. Done it. It's so, if I could do it, come on, right? Plus in-game live betting and the most rewarding player perks in the business on the all-new mobile site that makes wagering on the go a breeze. Because, if you get a hot tip, you just got to get going right now. Plus now, join MyBookie and they will match your deposit up to $1,000, 100% deposit bonus if you use promo code FTW. So again, mybookie.ag, promo code FTW, 100% deposit bonus up to $1,000. You play, you win, you get paid. MyBookie.ag, promo code FTW. Welcome back to the Blue Door Pub Thunderdome for another Bull with Andy Carlson, Minnesota's 87th best daily podcast show about everything and nothing, 5 days a week. And coming in, we're going to be talking to Mark Schofield of Inside the Pylon here in a second. Hey, tell a friend, spread the word. iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, bullshow.co, and also like our Facebook page. And I got to, I'm really excited to talk to Mark because I've been following Inside the Pylons stuff for since they launched, and it's really cool how they brought together a bunch of names in the football and the draft Twitter blogosphere and just combine and just absolutely great content. It's sort of what we did locally on a macro scale with zone coverage and Cold Omaha, bringing everyone together, and also to a degree the Andy, Luke, and Reef football machine. Just bringing together Arif, Luke, and I am also a person, and turning that into a pretty big show. And I love when people out there work together, especially in something that is so, I don't want to say fly by night, but it is sort of fleeting. As for most people, this is not a full-time gig. They're working the day job. This is more of a passion thing. And you can see quality and quantity wane and sort of go back and forth, sort of hit or miss. But Inside the Pylon, heavy hitters, InsideThePylon.com, hit them up. Ooh, also, if you want to support us, bullshow.co/Amazon, drag that little link down to the bookmark. Because here's what you do. Every time you shop on Amazon, use our link. Easiest way to support the show, because it's something you already do. Shopping on Amazon, and do it through us. And we'll get a little credit. We'll get a couple nickels in our pocket. And, hey, we'll keep on rolling on with this little nonsense, eh? So let's get into it. Mark Schofield. Welcoming in to the Blue Door Pub Thunderdome for the first time. Probably the first of many times, hopefully. Mark Schofield. Follow him on Twitter. Mark Schofield, all one word. Inside the Pylon. What's going on, man?
What's going on, Andy? How you doing, buddy?
I am good, mainly because we're recording this on Wednesday, and I saw that the Vikings just re-signed Terrence Newman, so that's big.
Big win for you guys.
Yeah, and there have been some talk of Newman's like, oh, I want to go play for a contender. I'm going to go try and win a ring, and it's like, oh, he's going to go to New England once the Patriots punt Malcolm Butler, and it'll be like, oh, he'll get a ring there. But no, it was all just posturing.
It's posturing season, Andy. I mean, we're seeing that right now with Hightower. I mean, taking meetings with Pittsburgh, taking meetings with the Jets. He's probably going to come back to New England. We pretty much anticipate that. But, that's what these guys do. And that's what their agents tell them to do. They're getting good advice.
So, based on the accent, I'm guessing huge Indianapolis Colts fan.
No, you'd be surprised. I'm actually a Saints fan.
What? Oh, so I wasn't, like, bullshitting myself.
No, I am a Patriots fan. I am.
Oh, damn it.
I know.
That was a pretty good burn. But so give me a little bit about your backstory.
Well, boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back. No, grew up in the Boston area. As a kid, I wanted to play hockey.
Yeah.
Like every kid growing up in the Boston area in the early 80s, like the Patriots were awful. The Red Sox were the Red Sox. The Bruins were good. The Celtics were good. So I'm a vertically challenged in person. So I wanted to play hockey. My dad played hockey, coached hockey, wanted to play hockey. And my parents were like, no, you're not going to play hockey. You're going to get hurt. You're going to blow out your knees. You can play football if you want. So I started playing football when I was 9. And now my knees are shot. My back is shot. And I give my parents grief every time I see them. Like, everything hurts. Why didn't you let me play hockey? So started playing football, like I said, when I was 9. Played all the way through college.
Where'd you play?
Wesleyan University, the powerhouse Division III school of the New England Small College Athletic Conference.
Doesn't Belichick always wax poetically about Wesleyan? Or is that Amherst? Oh, is that Wesleyan?
No, Wesleyan.
Okay.
He was a Wesleyan grad, he was in there in the 60s, I think. So I like to tell people that I'm probably the 3rd most famous football alum to come out of Wesleyan. I'm coming for you, Field Yates. I'm coming for you, bud.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it's Belichick, it's Field Yates. Well, I guess you got to throw Mangini in the mix too, right?
No, you don't.
No? Okay. Thanks, man. Man. That makes me feel good. At least I'm still number 3 on the list.
Yeah.
But played football at Wesleyan all 4 years, and really didn't have a plan. So I went to law school, and kind of worked my way through law school. What I was doing with my life. And the best thing about law school.
You know, it's weird. Successful people, when they say they don't have a plan, they just go like, I went to law school. Like the average person, when they say they don't have a plan, they barista or they bartend until they're 40, you know?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Aimless, people of that ilk are like, oh, just go to law school and put off making a decision for 3 years. And that's kind of what I did. I mean, best thing about law school, I met a girl.
Hey.
We're married now. So there you go.
Except with her being a lawyer too, I'm sure marriage fights are interesting.
I just concede very early in the argument, and that's probably why I wasn't a good lawyer. Was because I just kind of threw in the white flag early.
No,
look, you got me.
You'd be a great DA. You'd always plea bargain.
Yeah, I mean I was a civil lawyer, Andy, and I settled cases way too quickly in the process a lot of the times because I was just like, I don't want to go argue about this. So, it's good for a while, but then I just realized that I just wasn't that good at it. And it was driving me crazy. I just was miserable. Stress, anxiety, depression, all that ugly kind of stuff. So after 10 years, I was like, I need to do something different. And right around that time, some people I knew from the internet, which is crazy the world that we live in, but I'd been spending a ton of time, probably too much time, getting back to my problems as a lawyer, on a Red Sox message board, Sons of Sam Horn. And when it wasn't baseball season, we would talk about the Patriots. And so some people I knew from there that people now know from ITP, like David Archibald, like Chuck Zada, we would spend our time, talking about Patriots draft picks and breaking down plays and stuff. So right around that time, I left the practice of law. Some of these guys had the idea, hey, let's start a football site. And none of us really knew what we were doing. I mean, Chuck comes from a financial background, like Dave comes from a, computer science background. I come from the law. None of us really had hardcore journalism degrees or any experience running a website or starting a business, but we kind of threw it together on the fly. And, that was about 3 years ago.
All right. I just looked you up. So you're 5'8", 155 quarterback, number 9 from Wesleyan.
That was my listed height and weight. Yep.
And that's always inflated.
Yeah, the height was definitely close, but the weight, even as a freshman, 155 was a stretch, my friend. It was a stretch. And let me tell a story. I like to wax poetic about this one. My freshman year, I come in, and I'm expected to be maybe 3rd or 4th strand. I come in, I'm 4th strand on the depth chart, and I somehow win the backup job. And I still didn't think I was going to play a lot. We had a guy who was a junior at the time. This guy, Scott Hevesy, he got most of the run, but he had some concussion problems. And so before I knew it, I was playing pretty regularly because he would get knocked out of games early. And our homecoming game that year was against Williams, who at that time was a powerhouse. And they had this guy, number 75 or 77, I forget what number exactly he was, but Ethan Brooks, he was a defensive tackle, but he went on to play offensive tackle for the Ravens, for the Rams.
Oh, wow.
He was 6'5", 305. And so first or second series of the game, Scott gets sacked by Brooks on a 2nd and 10 kind of play. So now it's 3rd and long.
Yep.
And I'm signaling the play, and I do the hand signal thing. And Scott kind of looks at me, and you could tell that something quite wasn't right. And, you know, he does the windmill thing. He asked me to do it again. And then he gets into the huddle. Everybody starts, all the other 10 guys are like screaming for a timeout. And a wide receiver comes running over, this guy, Craig Bocus, and he's like, Coach, Scott just says he's seeing yellow. So my face goes white because I know what's coming next. And offense coordinator just kind of nods. And he's like, all right, Schofield, go in. So I grab my helmet. It's 3rd and long, and we call some like roll out pass and play. And we're supposed to pull the backside guard in front of me for protection for the sole purpose of blocking Ethan Brooks. I get the snap. I pivot out. I go to execute the play action fake, but I feel my foot like kick something. And as I turn around to like pick up, you know, downfield and see what's going on, I see that backside guard. He had tripped over my foot. So he's like stumbling down to face plant, and I see big Ethan Brooks, number like whatever, say it's 75, all 6'5", 305 of him. And like you said, Andy, 5'8", 155, the listed height and weight. And he's got a free shot at me. Mm. And I do the only thing that I can think of, the only thing that comes natural, which is wrap the ball up and try to run this dude over. And I swear to God, I think he laughed before he laid me out. I somehow got back to the sideline, and our fullback, senior captain, grabbed me by the face mask. He's like, it was like, you know, major league moment. He's like, that was great. Don't you ever do that again.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's my you know, little moment of greatness with the guy that went on to play in the National Football League.
No, that's always a great story. That's something you can tell your grandkids.
As long as I remember it.
Yeah. Although you're going to get a couple more yards as the years go along. It's like how the fish always gets bigger in the stories. Oh,
by the time I'm like 60, he's going to be like some like 6'2", 225 free safety. And it's like 30 yards downfield or right at the goal line, you know, for a national championship. You know, that's what that's going to be.
So bring it back to Inside the Pylon. You mentioned that you got a bunch of guys together, and it's funny how a lot of people in how do you say, like the football blogosphere, we'll say blogosphere, come from, you know, professional jobs where, you know, they get a little burnt out and then they want to pursue their passion. It's like you don't see many people who, you know, just come up like, hey, this is my gig. Like, right. I'm a pure blogger / football journalist.
Yeah, and I think in a way it's, you know, in various situations, maybe it's the like quarter life or the 1/3 life, or in my case, closer to the like half life crisis, where you're just kind of like, look, you know, I could go on being a lawyer for the rest of my life. And the more and more I do it, the closer and closer the end of my life is probably going to be at this rate. Or I could at least like take my shot at something, and if it doesn't pan out, like then I can go back and do this. Like you've got that like sort of professional, you know, background to fall back on. Yeah. That if things go south, like I was kind of like when we started Inside the Pylon, or Football Central was I think its first name, which was, oh my gosh, how original. I always kind of looked at it as like,
good for SEO purposes though.
Yeah, I mean. Football Central. This looks new.
Footballwebsite.com.
Yes, football website info. Yeah. I always looked at it as like, look, maybe this would give you something to do 3 months while I put off finding a real job. And my wife, you know, thankfully she's actually good at being a lawyer, so we were in a position where, you know, we could do that. And so, like I said, I always kind of looked at it like, you know, give me something to do. I can delay, you know, getting back to the real world for a bit. But it just kind of like took off, and, you know, to see it grow into what it's kind of become, and to see people kind of, you know, like the work that we do, and, you know, to see us get, you know, some modicum of respect in this industry, which is it's a tough industry to get into because there's so many people out there doing great work. But it's a great time to be a football fan because, you know, whatever you want, whether it's cap info, whether it's fantasy stuff, whether it's hardcore X's and O's, like you can find it within 10 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about that I respect about sports bloggers is that they do it not as a job or profession, but because they love it, because they love doing it. And, you know, a lot of them do write and, you know, on podcast talk at a level that is frankly above like some syndicator writers, some beat writers, etc. And like the line is blurring. You know, like 10 years ago, blogger was almost like a 4-letter word. But now I feel like fans and even writers are starting to see that there's very good quality content coming out from guys who don't have a traditional journalism background.
I think that's true. And, the people out here, they're kind of like doing it for the love and not getting a ton of money for it. They just throw their heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
And we're all kind of creating the stuff or writing the stuff that we'd wanted to see. Like, I think a lot of us kind of looked at this little football landscape maybe 8 or 10 years ago and we were like, man, if I could read an article breaking down like, how Seattle runs their cover 3, that would be great. I'd love to read that. And people just thought, why don't I just do that? Like, why wait for somebody to do that? And so now you've got people across the spectrum, like, writing and creating the stuff that they want to see. And it's, it's raising the level of, I guess, discourse is the word, for the entire industry. And like you said, Andy, I think, the bigger name sites, the bigger name people are starting to look at that and say, hey, we need to up our game too. Mm-hmm. And if the end result is everything across the board is better, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's kind of like a microcosm of what's going on with TV, where you got like Hulu and Netflix and Amazon all putting out great content. It's lowering the barrier to entry, and it's just jacking up the quality of the content. And the winners are the viewers of TV and the readers of football content.
Yeah, and everything is so accessible now. Like, you could be on the subway riding into work, miserable, hating your job, like I was, and like, oh, I'll pull up this podcast or that podcast, or I can pull up a YouTube page and see somebody like Matt Waldman like breaking down game tape on a guy that I'm hoping my favorite football team drafts. Mm-hmm. Or, I could read an article like by a Reef who's like going hardcore into like some guy that I bumped into down in Mobile. I don't know, thinks he knows something about numbers in football, but apparently people like him.
No, it's okay. He's the only guy that you're taller than.
Yeah, pretty much. And even that's a stretch.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got like all this information, like basically in the pocket of your jeans at your disposal, or you could just look at cat videos.
Yeah, that's always the funny thing about cell phones is like we have a rectangle that fits in our pocket that can access all of the information in the known world, except we do it to watch videos of guys flipping, like little kids like flipping water bottles, and then people go nuts. Yeah.
Or like we chase like imaginary Pokemon figures around the real world.
Yeah.
But that's fun though.
I don't know. Like I'm pretty sure Arif is still the only person who is on Pokemon.
He is. I mean, I don't want to sell the guy out too much, but there were moments during the Senior Bowl practices where he's like in the corner of the stadium looking outside at, not even at the field. It's like, Arif, what are you doing? He's like, oh, there's a Pikachu. I got to get it.
Oh, Pikachu's like a big one, isn't it? Oh,
it is a big one,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I only played it for like a week, and I was just like, I was walking into like trees and stuff, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Now, Mark, not to date you, but roughly how old you be?
I'm happy to say that I just turned 40 this January.
Hey.
The big 4-0. I'll wear that like a badge of honor.
Hey, midlife crisis, 80, that's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, if I can make it to 80, I'll be happy.
Also, random observation I had this week. You don't see like too many people over 6'6" at like 70 plus.
Right.
So we're good to go. Like you and I are both like height challenged. We're gonna live to 100.
I mean, you don't see guys that are like 6'6", 6'5", 305 walking around in their 70s, but you see a lot of dudes our size.
Yeah, pretty much the only 80-year-old over 7-foot guy is Bill Russell. That's it.
Yeah. Man, that guy's living the dream, huh?
What's he been doing?
Oh, I thought you said Bill Walton.
Oh, no, Bill Russell.
Bill Walton. No, Bill Russell.
I'm sure Bill Russell has got it all right.
I'm sure he's living okay.
He gets an extra Jello cup at the home. Nursing home, yeah. It's good.
I was thinking Bill Walton. All
right, so Inside the Pylon, bring it back in. Now, you have an absolute stable of awesome football guys there. And I imagine, like, recruiting that crew was like the Magnificent Seven, where you just keep going and you pick one up as you go.
Pretty much. It was kind of like, Ocean's 11.
That's a better analogy, yeah. Do
we need a grease man? And then you see somebody do something really crazy, like on the internet, they like write a great piece, and you're like, we got a grease man. That's kind of what it's like. I mean, a lot of people come to us and say, look, I just really like what you guys are doing. Got room for one more? Sure. Come on in. What do you want to write? I don't care. Write whatever you want. Like, that's kind of how we've like kind of approached it. Like, we don't really like dole out assignments or anything. It's just like, you want to write like 5,000 words on one play and why it was the most important play of the Super Bowl and nobody's talking about it anymore. Knock yourself out.
But Julio Jones catch?
Yeah, the Julio Jones catch, which was amazing, which was a moment where I was just like, is this really happening again?
Oh, God, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk Super Bowls with you being a Patriots fan. So
yeah,
give me the emotions throughout the game.
Well, it was one of these, my parents, they've moved down from Boston recently, so they live nearby.
Yeah.
And so kind of to set the stage, like my parents are over for the game. My son, he was really, really excited. He's in kindergarten. He was really excited to like watch the Super Bowl. It's the first season where he's actually really got into football. He wakes up in the middle of the night, the morning of the Super Bowl, like vomiting all over himself. So he's like sick, like can't even like really like stay awake, feels miserable. And so, late in the first half, we're trying to get this sick kid to bed. Pats are getting blown out 21-3. Like, my parents are miserable. Like, the mood is just dark and sour. And when it gets to be like 28-3, I turn to my parents. I'm like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
and all the commercials sucked.
Yeah, the commercials weren't great. Like, this is just not fun. Like, you guys were, not to get political, but you guys were over on election night. Like, you guys just can't come over for big events anymore. Like, that's just, you can't come over. Like, we're just going to keep our distance. And the Patriots start to mount a little comeback. You get the Hightower strip sack, and I'm just like, just get it to a one-score game. Like, if they lose like 28-20, like, fine. At least they don't get blown out. At least we don't have to deal with is Brady done? At least we don't have to deal with all that headache. And then, you get the Edelman catch. And that's the moment when I'm like, okay, now New England has their ridiculous play. Like the David Tyree stuff, the helmet catch, that's out the door. The Manningham catch over the shoulder, like we don't have to see that replayed ever again. Because Edelman picks a ball that is 2 inches off the turf, somehow makes that catch. Okay, now things are going our way. But then Jones comes back and makes that catch along the sideline, and when you're just like, really? Matt Ryan had no business throwing that pass. Like when he lets that go, like Logan Ryan is in perfect position. And Jones still comes down with it. So then you're like, oh, that's the catch we're going to be seeing over and over and over again. And as I'm like pacing the room and I'm just like, I can't believe we're going to see the Jones thing. Like everybody else, my wife, my parents are like, why aren't they running the ball? And then why are they getting sacked? Like what is going on? They've played themselves out of field goal range.
Now, that was a very Minnesota Vikings drive where you get to that point on the field and then you end up punting. Like that happened earlier in the year against the Lions. And I think against the Titans too.
That's like one of those drives when you're like playing Madden where you're like, oh, I'm going to get really cute now.
Yep.
Like I've like run it down this guy's throat. I'm going to get really cute and like dial up a halfback pass and try to burn him.
Now, do you subscribe to the theory that I hold that Kyle Shanahan was trying to show off a little bit? He was trying to put up 50 on the Patriots.
I could see that. I mean, this was an aggressive team that like stayed aggressive. I think they just wanted to kind of stick to that mentality of we're going to go pedal to the metal, pedal to the floor, like throughout this game, and like we're not going to change who we are. And Shanahan's trying to like prove to everybody, oh, Belichick's going to take away the best thing that the Atlanta offense does. Like Belichick's a defensive genius. He's going to have something dialed up to confuse Rat Ryan and Kyle Shanahan. And Shanahan heard that. He's like, no, I'm dropping a 50 burger on this guy. Like he'll go into the Hall of Fame, but he's going to have that black mark on his resume.
Yeah, it's weird because we talk about nepotism, and obviously Kyle Shanahan's as Mike Shanahan. I'm trying to look this up. The last Super Bowl before he got the Denver job, he was offense coordinator of the 49ers, and that was when they played the Chargers. And that was the one where Steve Young threw for like 6 touchdowns and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think in the back of his mind, he was thinking,
he's gunning for dad.
Yeah, my dad's last game as an OC was monstrous. I'm going to top the old man. I'm going to top that son of a bitch. That's what I'm going to do.
I mean, father and son relationships can be like that. I mean, when your dad puts up numbers like that, in his last game as an OC, you'd like to beat that. I could see that.
All right, 49-26, Niners over Chargers, Super Bowl 29.
I like that theory.
Bam. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, everyone else is in football blogosphere is very good with X's and O's and technical. I go on random stuff like this. Like
But that's why this is such a great time to be a fan, because like you need people like you, Andy, that can just like be like, oh yeah, well remember this game, this like random regular season between Minnesota and Green Bay back in October of '96.
Yeah.
Like you need that historical stuff because there's such a rich history to this game. There's more than enough room for the stuff like that to be brought up and written about and waxed poetically about.
Or like, did the Patriots win the game or did the Falcons lose the game? More at 10.
Yeah.
That gets beaten to death. Like, I want to talk about, does Kyle Shanahan have an Oedipal complex?
I think he kind of proved it.
We embrace debate next.
Yeah.
See, that would be a show I would watch.
That would be.
Yeah.
Literary references, breaking down football games.
Yeah. And also incest. It sells itself. Yeah.
Incest sells.
Yeah. And, all right, so checking out of that hot route.
You don't want to stay on the incest topic?
I mean, I would have to start a whole nother podcast about it to join my other 17,000. The incest podcast, coming soon.
Stay tuned. Details to come. Sponsors welcome.
Yeah. Oh, no. I was going to throw West Virginia under the bus, but no, I don't want to do that. Now, like, who do you love in the industry? Like, who were the people that you read coming up that helped shape your worldview?
I mean, I grew up, like I said, in Boston in the 80s. And
Dan Shaughnessy.
Shaughnessy, but even before them, like Will McDonough, like Bob Ryan, Peter Gammons, like, talk about a murderer's row of a sports page. And then kind of as I got older, like I moved to the DC area, went to law school in Virginia. Like I remember like sitting on my couch watching the first episode of PTI.
Yeah.
Just kind of being blown away by like Kornheiser and Wilbon and like, listening to Kornheiser's radio show and, seeing him just like rant about whatever he wanted to. Mm-hmm. And it was still interesting. Like, he can talk about, the local traffic in the DC area and it's still interesting. And, kind of getting to that mindset that you can like bring different perspectives to the world of sports. And as I kind of like moved into more like a football focused connoisseur, consumer of sports stuff, like obviously like the Peter Kings, the Monday Morning Quarterback for all of its flaws and, things that we can get into, like the guy really needs an editor, for example.
Yeah, I feel like Peter King has become a bit of a punching bag for like the hipster like Twitterverse.
Yeah, it's like an easy mark. It's easy to like get on Twitter like Monday afternoon and like poke holes and Monday Morning Quarterback. But before Twitter and before really the internet really took off, like Monday Morning Quarterback was like the thing you did. Like you got to work, you got your coffee, you sat down and you read it like from beginning to end.
People are Monday Morning Quarterbacking the Monday Morning Quarterback.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like Inception
It is
stuff.
amazing. And it's actually, we're taking another layer because we're Monday Morning Quarterback and the Monday Morning Quarterbacking of Monday Morning Quarterback. It's like true Inception.
It's weird because great writers like Peter King and once they get success, and sometimes it's very easy. I think it's a humanistic thing that once you get some dollars in your pocket, you get a little bit of clout. Maybe you get a little bit of hubris behind you. Then sometimes the work suffers, the thing that initially got you there. And I always bring it back to Skip Bayless. Like when Skip Bayless was a beat writer in like Dallas, for example, he wrote some very good stuff. But then once he got on TV, like Cold Pizza, First Take, that sort of, he transformed into what we see now.
Yeah. And, part of that is sort of what the industry is dominating right now, which is views and clicks. Like so much of it is like how many people can you get to your site? How many people can you get to tune in? And it's just like almost a one-upsmanship game or a brinksmanship style game of what can I do that's so outrageous that people almost have to hate watch or hate click. Like I'm going to do a mock draft that has Davis Webb, Nathan Peterman, and Brady Gustafson going in the first round. You want to read that, don't you? Just because you're going to get angry when you read it.
You do. And then you're going to quote tweet it with a WTF, and then that's just going to get more publicity.
It's just going to spin and spin. And meanwhile, I've got my feet up on my desk being like, all right, I'm done for the day. Yeah. Let's go hit happy hour. And that's what it is. And that's why, coming back to like, the work that like sort of like the independent sites are doing, it's like we don't peddle in that. Like, like ITP, like we're not going to write something that's just for the sole purpose of generating hate clicks. Like we could do that, but that's not why people like come over to us each day.
Yeah.
Like they come over to us to kind of get away from that.
That's why I think like I want to say like niche sites, but more like boutique sites where it's just writing about good content. You know, there's no slideshows. There isn't provocative takes just for the sake of clicks, like Inside the Pylon, like Grantland tried to be, and like what the Ringer is having a facsimile of where it's good, like it's good content, and it isn't all about generating the number of clicks. Like the example I always bring back is remember Brown wrote like fantastic long form piece for Grantland about Selma and his experience down there, and that got like 800,000 clicks, we'll say. And then Matthew Berry's Week 12 flex rankings gets 4 million hits on it. Now Matthew Berry is great at what he does. He's fantastic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the Week 12 flex rankings is 5 times more valuable than the long form Selma piece.
Right. Yeah, and that's a great example. And there's obviously a market for, people to read something and get their fantasy lineups ready. But, that's something that Barry can do week in and week out. Yeah. Whereas that Selma piece or, Ta-Nehisi Coates' piece near the end of the Obama presidency for the New Yorker, My President Was Black. Like, that was a fantastic piece of writing. And, it doesn't get the clicks that, a Skip Bayless rant will get or a bad mock draft will get. But like you said, it's the same thing. Like, what's more really important?
Skip Bayless would still take RG3 as his franchise quarterback right now.
Yeah. Blaine Gabbert would still get picked before Cam Newton.
And I feel like it's sort of inevitable once larger corporations, once some oversight gets involved, where they all want to see the bottom line numbers. And it's a bit of a deal with the devil. Like these sites, they want to be financially viable. So they get embedded. Some of these larger sites, the larger entities need content, but then since they're holding the purse strings, they're trying to force these things of, why don't you do this into a slideshow, or why don't you put out mock draft 17.5, even though the landscape hasn't really changed. Let's just change a couple of picks and then we'll move around.
Yeah, and how the sites like these are monetized is really needs to be rethought. I think. Because, the click-based model of advertising and things like that, like it's just not doing it. Yep. Same thing for like these, paywalls and, membership sites, like, especially with the explosion of like, boutique sites, like you call them. Like, I know people love Matt Bowen. I love Matt Bowen. I love the work that he does breaking stuff down. But like when ESPN decided to put him behind a paywall, it's like, well, I like him, but like I can get similar stuff that's almost as good for free out there. Yeah. So maybe more of like a membership based or like even this new thing, Patron, where a lot of people are like saying, hey, if you like this stuff, support the work. Like, I don't know if that will work for like an ESPN, given they've already gone down this path, but like for the smaller sites, that's like a much probably more manageable model. And
this is where I also feel for people who did go to school for journalism, our traditional journals, like Master Tisfatzian, he's out there in the D.C. area now for WAPO. He used to be here at the Star Tribune. And like when Ravel was talking about working for free and getting your foot in the door, like I agree with it to a degree, but Master was definitely all about, get yours, get your value. And the thing about it is like low-level guys coming in through journalism probably have a hell of a lot of student loans. Maybe they went to J school, so that's even more. And then like their employers are seeing it's like, hey, I can pay this kid in his dorm room or this guy who's an accountant and also just likes to write about football, $10 and a ham sandwich, and he can throw together something maybe not as technically sound as you, and he'll get the same amount of clicks, and I don't have to pay him dental, Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
It is a shame. I mean, that's got to be a tough situation. Guys like you talk about that have gone to school for this and have the background that they've invested in themselves. Yeah. It'd be like in my previous life if I were a lawyer and suddenly law firms were like, we could pay lawyers, we could hire lawyers to do this, but we found that with Wikipedia and Google, like we could just get high school kids to research case law. Yeah. I'd be looking around like, well, why did I go to law school? Like, why did I rack up 3 years of law school debt to do this?
Or like, what's your take on something like LegalZoom?
I mean, It's one of those things where like it's like WebMD. It's like sometimes it's nice to have like an informed person kind of take ownership over either a legal situation or their own health. But you're like, what's the old saw? Like a lawyer who represents himself as a fool for a client. Like you're going to get yourself into trouble. And like, yeah, you know, the guy that helped defend O.J. Simpson can opine about it in the commercials and stuff. But, you know, I'm not going to be drafting my own will anytime soon because I'm not going to be good at it. And I don't think that like a self-cite guide like LegalZoom is really going to make sure I'm totally protected. Like I'd rather like that's one of those things like, you know, if you want to build a car or build your own house, like, yeah, you can go to a website or, you know, buy a kit. But when you want to sleep in it that first night and be sure that that second floor doesn't going to come crashing down on your head, like you'd rather pay somebody and have it done right.
Well, that's kind of awkward. This show is brought to you by LegalZoom. Make sure to use code Andy for 10%. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, wow. No. That would have been great.
I've been working on them, but maybe not.
Maybe don't send them this as a demo reel. Yeah. Like, you know, find another one.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. And I feel like since there has been pressure from the top to get more clicks, to be first, to have more hot takes, because there's just like a large mass out there near the bottom, that I feel like it is warping the way that traditional media guys, whether it be writers, radio, TV personalities, they're sort of, don't want to say cheapening themselves, but they're moving closer to the middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And a lot of that is Twitter. You know, Twitter is, I think, sort of the ultimate double-edged sword. Like, it's great for connecting with people. Like, 6 years ago, I'm not on this show because you probably don't see me on Twitter. I don't see you. We don't interact on a daily basis like we sometimes do on Twitter.
Oh, no, you know, so I would look you up in the phone book and then I would
see that I'm unlisted and then be like, wow, this guy's a snob, and close the phone book and be like, forget it. No, but I mean, you know, Twitter's great for that. It's great for sort of like building a network of people that you can interact with on a daily basis and bounce ideas off of and promote their stuff, and they promote yours, and it's great. But the pace of Twitter, you know, in the new America is almost breathtaking, where it's like you get tired just scrolling through your timeline because things move at like the speed of Twitter, which I think is faster than the speed of light. Like, free agency has been out there for what, 4 days, and it feels like it's over.
Yeah.
Because everything just happens instantly, and it's done, and everybody's moving on to the draft now. And once the draft is done, you're going to see the takes. Oh, is it Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen or Josh Allen for QB1 next year? And it's like, it's May 5th. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. That's my favorite one, when they release a big board or a mock draft, like the day after the draft.
Yep.
That's the best.
And I'll have my QB watch list up, I'm sure, which is like as far as I want to push that envelope. But you know, if somebody turns in for editing at ITP, like their, you know, 2018 mock draft 1.0 on, say, May 5th, I'm going to be like, no. Like, come on. At least wait till June.
No, but you have to release the draft grades.
That's true. The draft grades, which is great. I love that. The draft grades. Yeah. It's like we haven't seen these guys take a snap yet. Not even in, like, OTAs. Well, but
you should do just like the 2013 draft grades. Release that this year.
Yeah. I mean, I had some fun with that last year. I graded the quarterback draft picks by using Game of Thrones quotes, which I thought was interesting. It just gave me an excuse to like research Game of Thrones quotes for an entire day before writing it.
Yeah.
A lot of Tyrion stuff in there.
I think I might be the only person on earth who doesn't watch Game of Thrones.
Really?
Yeah.
Read the books. The books are great.
I'm really bad at reading.
Me too.
Yeah.
But like, it's one of those things where like you'll get hooked. At least the first two books are really, really good. I think the third and fourth, he starts going off on like multi-page tangents about like pie recipes and what flavors of meat are good. And it's like, really, dude? Now I know why you're not going to finish these books.
You know, it's weird because we have a running joke that I'm like the only member of Vikings Twitter sphere, blogosphere that has never written a word or doesn't read anything. Because I mean,
at this point, you gotta like just ride that to the end.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure I've got ADD, maybe a touch of dyslexia, so maybe that's why I just talk so much because it's like way easier than trying to read or write something.
Writing's hard.
It is. I don't know how people do it.
Even this year, to an extent, I've just been like, I could write an article about this. I'll just do a YouTube video. It's just easier.
Yeah, it's the way to go.
Yeah.
So what's the long-term plan? Like, where do you see RTP in 5 years?
Well, obviously dominating the industry and crushing our enemies and getting the great tables at restaurants. Like, that's why we're in it, right? I mean, that's a Kornheiser line that I always come back to. Like, why do you want to be famous? Why do you want to make it in your industry? Well, to help my friends crush my enemies and get the good table at restaurants. Like, right? That's what everybody wants.
Pretty much.
Yeah. No, I mean, as far as ITP, like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'd like to see it, like, become sort of a self-managing, self-fulfilling, self-sustaining little boutique website where, you know, we can really pay people to come and, like, do what they're doing and, you know, not like, you know, nickels and dimes and stuff, but really, like, sort of create something that has a lasting, you know, has some staying power in this industry. Like, you know, if you were to ask me, like, where do I see ITP? If you asked me that question last year, I would have thought, you know, we're probably going to end up being sort of like the farm club for bigger sites. Like, we're going to create some people, have them create their sort of identities and their brands, and then see them snatched up. And while that still may happen, like, you know, the more and more we do this and the more and more we kind of grow ourselves in this, you know, industry, I think there's certainly a chance for us to stick around and make it work. At the same time, like, if you're listening to Bleacher Report and you want to, like, say, you know, pay me money to go away or something, I'm not going to say no. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, all right, so what if Sports Illustrated just comes in and be like, hey, we're going to give you X amount of money, except we get complete editorial oversight?
See, that's a tough one because, you know, a lot of what we do is behind the scenes. Like, we have, like, a legit editorial department where, like, every piece gets edited. Like, you know, we've rejected things before. Like, articles that I've turned in, we've been like, no, we can't put. The other people have been like, no, we really, really can't do that. Like, it's just not. Either it's not good or whatever. So we kind of like the fact that we, like, have a sort of in-house editorial department that, like, you know, we're not going to do clickbaity things. And, you know, if we want something to go up that is going to have some, like, hardcore statistical analysis, like, we want it, like, vetted 3, 4, 5 different ways by different people. And that's one of the benefits about, you know, having people from, like, computer science backgrounds. You know, somebody puts together, like, a statistical model, like, we get it worked over before it goes up. And so, you know, that kind of idea, that kind of notion where, like, somebody comes to us and says, look, you know, we'll pay X amount of dollars, but everything's handled by us now. Like, that would be a tough one. Now, if there's a couple of commas in there, well, you know, I don't know if you're a Silicon Valley fan, but, you know, if there's a chance to become a member of the Trace Commas Club, I'm not going to say no.
Everything has its price.
It's true.
Yeah.
Including my integrity.
Well, except for Malcolm Butler, I don't think Belichick's keen on keeping in.
No. Belichick, man, that guy. I mean,
like, how do you win the Super Bowl and then still improve your team and get Brandon Cooks? Like, what the hell's going on?
I don't know. And you just know that, like, we get closer to the draft, he's going to pull off some, like, he's finally going to, like, wear Cleveland down to they're just like, fine, take 1, take 12, just give us Jimmy Garoppolo. And then the Pats will be sitting there at 1-12.
How many years do you think Brady's got left?
I think he could probably play 3. You look at these moves that they're making, and you start to wonder, okay, are they really just going to make one last run at 19-0?
Oh, that'd be dirty.
Because think about that. Think about if they go 19-0 next year. If you're Brady, you walk away, right?
Well, see, the storybook ending was to walk away after this one. You get your honor back after Deflategate, even though that was complete BS, and then you just sort of ride off to the sunset. Like, if I said Brady would just disappear with Giselle into Europe, like Batman at the end of The Dark Knight Rises. That's what he'd do. That's what you'd think, but except he loves football.
Yeah,
and also not eating sugar.
Yeah, I should pay the $200 for that then and write a summer piece on it. But yeah, I mean, I look at the moves that they're making, and part of me just thinks, look, they're making like one last run at 19-0, and they're going to do that. Belichick's going to walk away. Brady's going to walk away. They should be like, look, this is our legacy. Yep. The undefeated team. Say what you want about us. We did it our way. Adios. Have fun with Jacoby Brissett.
But do you think, like, in the back of Belichick's mind, he just wants to, you know, if Tom leaves, whatever, or if we can get 2 number ones for him, whatever, I'll just win one without him. Like, I'll take this Matt Castle thing, like, full on with Jabroni Brisket or whatever.
I mean, that's kind of like the Shanahan thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
Like, there might be an element to that where one or even both of these guys are like, no, I want to prove I can do it on my own.
Mm.
And if we've learned anything about Belichick, it's like he's not afraid to cut a guy, get loose on a guy like a year or two ahead of schedule.
Well, hell, he probably cut James White in camp. They got Burkhead now.
Yeah. It's a business. It's an absolute business to him. I mean, Richard Seymour, Lawyer Malloy, like look on down the line. And so, there's always that fear in the back of your mind as a Patriots fan. Like, I'm going to wake up one day and it's going to be like breaking news. Tom Brady traded to Jacksonville. Yeah. And you're just like, what? But that's always kind of in the back of your mind. And so, I would have put it past. I mean, these are obviously both ultra, ultra, ultra competitive people. And so, gosh, imagine the numbers Brady versus Belichick regular season game would do.
Oh, no. Yeah, Belichick would just has such like big cojones who trade him in division. Like when we traded Bledsoe to the Bills.
Yeah.
Oh, trade like, Brady to the Jets. Oh, my God.
You're going to the Jets. We're going to get that twice a year.
That'd be amazing.
The numbers. I mean, they'd be like now holidays.
That would be great.
That would be.
Oh, no. Trade him for Hackenberg. And then Belichick.
And then turn Hackenberg into a great quarterback.
Yeah. That would be the coup de grace.
That would be the ultimate full on guy. Just like I am better than everyone.
Also, not only am I going to draft Christian McCaffrey and then pick up Adam Thielen, I'm going to get like straight up like albinos, like full on powder as my skill position guys. And hell, I'll get some white cornerbacks like Jason Sehorn probably as a kid. We'll get him in, and I'll still win.
I'm just going to be drafting kids from the NESCAC. I'm still going to.
That was great.
Brady for Hackenberg straight up.
That would take balls.
Yeah, that would. Would. Skip Bayless would agree with it, though.
Yeah, probably. The great thing about this, Mark, is that I had you on this entire time. We didn't talk anything about draft, but I always do that with guests that I want to have back. So we're going to do that.
Yeah. Awesome, man. This is fun. I like the free form, man. It's good.
No, that's what I really like about just conversations. Like I've been basing this show around that, where it's just someone I find interesting, and we literally just talk. Like there's nothing really structured. Whatever comes up, what's ever interesting, and that's why I love podcasts. I have an inkling to get into radio, except what bugs me about radio is that you get 4 segments, and then you're up against the break, and then it's like, oh, we have to recap what we went over in the first hour and the third hour. Cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, the podcast, that format, so much nicer. I mean, you get to just go where you want to go, and you don't have to recap anything. You don't have to get out for the 20 on 20. Like, it's a great format, and this is it's just fun to see where it goes. I mean, we've been here for like 46 minutes, and we've just touched on a ton of stuff.
This segment brought to you by Bradley Tire and Battery. Get down to Bradley. He'll give you tires. He'll give you batteries. That's what he does. Cool.
I'm glad I got a sponsor, though.
Yeah.
Say hi to Mr. Bradley for me next time you see him.
All right. Speaking of podcasts, Inside the Pylon has a bunch of great ones. What else should people be hitting up Inside the Pylon for? Like, give me your full elevator pitch.
We legit have our draft guide coming out April 1st. I know draft guides are kind of like everybody has one, everybody does one. There are some great ones out there. I mean, Dave Ruger has one. I saw Ian Wharton. He's got his coming out. A lot of those are kind of like one-person shops. And what we're doing with ours, it's structured from top to bottom like an NFL organization. We're lucky to have Dan Hatman from the Scouting Academy, who was a scout with the Jets, with the Giants and the Eagles, who's been in rooms like this. And we've structured ours like an NFL organization. We have 4 guys at the top, Jeff Fair and Shane Alexander, who are the co-hosts of Pylon U, as well as Dan and John Ledyard, who are kind of overseeing everything. And then we've got our positional scouts, where you have myself and Ted Wynn look at our quarterbacks. You have Brandon Thorne and Sal Conti looking at offensive line, and on down the line for each position. So we've got multiple sets of eyes looking at each guy at each position. We do our reports. The 4 guys at the top are going to set up their vertical and horizontal board for the site, where it's, you've got your quarterback rankings for sure, but then you see how that stacks up with the rest of your horizontal board. So we're going to have, projections on these guys, scheme fits on these guys, but that's not all. We've got a whole group. We've got our fantasy department. They're going to be doing rankings for IDP, for redraft, for dynasty leagues. We're going to have some Q&As with some current players, former players, guys that have gone through the draft process, so they can share their story, what it's like to be on the inside of this when you're living the draft and not just writing about it. We've got some agents lined up to talk about what it's like, guiding a client, guiding a player, a young kid through the next stage of his life. And some other things we're going to have, like, Ted and I had a long conversation about the quarterbacks in this class. Well, that transcript's going to be in here, so you can see our insight on the guys that we write about and the guys that we didn't write about. So it's got everything, and it's basically the entire hive mind of ITP at your disposal. So if you're a draft person, it's great. If you're somebody that's just interested in sort of the human element of the draft, like, it's going to have something for you. If you're a fantasy person, it's going to have something for you as well. So, there's something for everybody in this. We're really excited about it. That comes out April 1st. You can find more at itpdraftguide.com.
You guys are like the golden corral of like football.
Something
stuff.
For everyone,
yeah.
man. Something for everyone.
Yeah. Maybe that's a bad example because everything's good. Oh, it's like the buffet at Caesar's Palace back in now.
I like that, but golden corral's good too for what it's worth. I mean, for what you're paying. I mean, look. Back in my Wesleyan days, we used to have this place called Abdow's. And every time we had a road trip that was like close nearby, that wasn't an overnight, we would stop at Abdow's for breakfast. And it was just this like little kind of, place off the beaten path. And I forget what town in Connecticut it was, but I always felt horrible for like, you get the like 60-year-old couple that's just there for their like Saturday morning breakfast. It's their routine. And then you see 54 big guys and a 5'8", 155-pound quarterback get off a bus, and they're just like going to clean the place out. But it was a great breakfast buffet. So,
you were Flutie after Flutie.
I was.
Yeah.
I was Flutie after Flutie, except Flutie was good, and he could drop kick too.
Oh no, you're like
remember when Belichick put him into drop kick an extra point?
I vaguely remember. Did he make it?
Yeah. For 2 points, I think.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh no! What's the name of that SMU quarterback on the Pony Express with Dickerson?
Oh man, you're gonna make me Google.
Lance McElhaney.
Wow.
Yeah, you're him.
Nice. I could live with that. Yeah. Because I could do that. I could hand the ball off. I was great at that, my friend.
Yeah. Eric Dickerson, kind of a jerk, kind of a prima donna. Craig James kills hookers. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Not bad.
And I apologize. I mispronounced your last name at the top, but it's Schofield, right?
Yeah. And I get that all the time, Andy, so I just kind of roll with it. I'm used to it. No worries.
All right. Follow Mark on Twitter at Mark Schofield, all one word, Inside the Pylon. And hey, if you ever need yet another podcaster, I'll be fine starting up an 18,000th one, because that's what I do here.
Sounds great to me, my friend. We should set that up.
All right. Hey, appreciate you, brother.
All right, Randy. Thanks, man.
And good stuff from Mark Schofield there from Inside the Pylon. Great football chat. This is my favorite part of these shows. And I know that we started Bull, so it can be a sort of all topics. Just regular sports, football, politics, pop culture stuff, pretty much anything. Like, hell, we did an entire show on me watching Blazing Saddles for the first time on Tuesday, right? But the football conversations are always the easiest because it's just a couple people talking ball. That's good stuff. I mean, the conversation that we just had could be in any bar over a beer and just talking about football. And I love that. It's such easy content, and I hope you guys like those chats because you're having those same conversations in your own bars. It's pretty amazing, huh? Speaking of bars, get on down to the Blue Door Pub every Friday during Lent for, oh my God, all you can eat codfish, $12. All you can eat, and also $14 pitchers of Indeed B-Side Pilsner. It's really good. It's fantastic. Get both, and you get entered in a drawing for an Indeed Patagonia Vest fishing pole, custom Indeed Blue Door Pub tackle box filled with beer. And a 2-night stay at Chase on the Lake in Walker, Minnesota. 2 locations for the Fish Fry, Longfellow, and University on Como. TheBDP.com for all of those details. We're on here for today. We'll talk to you on Friday. Subscribe, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and check out our YouTube channel as well. If you enjoy your friends, tell the show. Yeah. If you enjoy the show, tell a friend. Spread word of the Jerome Army. We taking over 1% at a time. Thanks, producer Ali Sorensen, for making me not sound so stupid today. But until next time, I'm Andy saying Annyeong.
Thanks for listening to Bowl with Andy Carlson, Minnesota's 87th best daily podcast. Download the show on iTunes. Everyone's middle name is Jerome.